So the last video in which I used old versus new, I asked you guys which race you wanted me to try next, and the winner, with a whopping 100% of the vote, okay, so only one person actually voted, was Albion. So kick back, get comfy, and grab a nice big old glass of milk, and let's get into it right now.
Wow.
So for longtime fans of this channel, you'll know Albion was actually one of the first factions I ever did a deep dive into for a Warhammer 3 potential race, and I still find them to be one of the most interesting factions or settings in the entire game. So old versus new has a ridiculously high standard to hit here if they want to impress me in any capacity. And in battle, I'd say they absolutely hit that mark. Their units are really cool to use, and they've got a lot of neat mechanics that mean if you're doing really well in combat, you'll get boosted even further. But if you're starting to lose combat, you will rapidly lose heart and run. It makes for a really distinct tide of battle, which also goes a long ways too, because even the smallest of decisions early on can massively impact the outcome of the rest of the battle. An early screw up makes an almost impossible victory, but an early lead means it's almost impossible to lose. If you're hoping to simply toss your troops at the enemy and win on sheer power, you're going to get sent packing in very, very short order. However, something else that a lot of their units do, particularly the higher tier ones, is they get increased physical resistance if you've got an excess of winds of magic left. Excess in this case meaning more than half, so 16 or more. It made for a really unique play between using your magic to actually turn the tide of the battle, but making sure that you were stockpiling enough of it to keep your units durable enough to actually win the battle. And then lastly, while not exactly battle specific, I really wanted to point out how good the units in this look. In spite of being locked to the base models that CA uses, the majority of these units look amazing. Like the Legendary Lord in particular, Morrigan, looks absolutely nuts on her Raven mount. Which leads me, I guess, pretty well into the next point about battles, which is the characters. They're one of the highlights of this faction in my eyes. Like, they only feature 2 different hero options and 2 different lord options. Although of the lord options, one of them has a bunch of variations depending on lore of magic. And on its own, that wouldn't raise any eyebrows, I would assume. But because they have a brand new lore of magic that's pretty fun, which I especially loved the bird artillery spell that you can use. It launches basically what I can only describe as explosive heat-seeking birds. But it's how the characters are designed that I thought made for some really cool builds. You can, for example, turn the mage heroes into melee-capable hybrid units, but doing so makes casting their magic very risky. They have a huge miscast chance tied in with doing that. But that's just one of the ways you can tune that particular unit. They've got a bunch of different options. You can tell all the ways that went through in this mod, they weren't just seeking to add more stuff, they wanted to add new stuff. And I think that's a really cool intent to have. Alright, so what about compatibility and balance then? Well, compatibility, as I said in the previous old versus new video, it's fantastic. Not only does it play nice with almost everything you could ever throw at it, but on top of that too, this is one of those long-standing community mods that I think most people base their own stuff around working with, so you typically have no issues with absolutely anything else running in your load order. As for balance, the deck's definitely stacked against you, especially from a campaign perspective. In battle, if you get pretty lucky, you can pull off some pretty neat wins, but on the flip side, as I said earlier in the video too, if you're also starting to lose a bit, you're going to get absolutely curb stomped, more so than other factions. This is very similar to what I said about the Trolls faction, right? This is a much more difficult way of playing, but a much more rewarding way of playing if you want to put in the legwork yourself. So then, conclusion time. Should you start a new run as Albion? Probably not. Not until you're really, really bored with the base game and want the game to absolutely kick the crap out of you. It's pretty damn difficult to play them properly, and there's a lot of things that kind of are in there that really shouldn't be in there. For example, tons of Norskin stuff causes you to get more corruption when as Albion you actually want less corruption. So stuff like that not only is difficult to contend with at first, but even as you progress up the ranks, your corruption actually tends to increase, meaning that the game gets harder as you go up the tech tree rather than easier. Again, if you are looking for a harder experience though, they are a pretty fun one to play with, and like I said, if you do pull off some of those wins, it makes you feel like an absolute god. Anyways, that's going to wrap it up for this particular playthrough. However, I'm going to open up the floor now to literally anything. Is there a particular Mixus mod that you want me to take a look at? Is there another faction in old versus new you want done? Is there some random mod that you haven't ever seen mentioned on this channel that you still want me to take a look at? Take a pick, we'll go through with it, and we'll do an analysis on those ones. If I don't hear anything though, I am literally going to set up a dartboard with targets, and I'm going to throw it at it and see what happens. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.